I'm a bad motherfucker.
So, hundreds injured in Crimea. Russia says Ukraine used American missiles. Russia reports over 100 people were injured and 5 were killed by Ukrainian attacks using American ATACMS missiles. So now, finally they get some nice weather and this happens? Come on, seriously. And I know there's going to be some gloomy Gus out there who just wants to look at the negative side of this instead of appreciating that there's someone who still wants American products. Am I right? Come on. And it's Ukraine.
Who says they don't make stuff no more?
So let's get into this. This is actually a very bad story.
Well, it's going to lead to something real bad, ain't it?
So this is Ukraine attacking civilians using American weapons.
You mean they tried to liberate it?
Yeah. The Russian Health Ministry reports that 5 people were killed and over 100 injured by a Ukrainian missile barrage in Crimea. Moscow claimed American cluster bombs are considered a war crime, but America still uses them.
Didn't we officially give those
We
to
gave
them?
them to them.
And did we give them those great uranium bullets that England was supposed to kick in?
I don't know.
Those depleted uranium ones that are a crime to use, and we're going to give them? Remember?
Yep, I do.
Because this is Russia, so it's really bad.
Yes. On Sunday, Russia civilians in Crimea were hit with debris and cluster munitions, cluster bombs from a Ukrainian attack. Wow. Okay. According to the latest reports, as a result of the shelling attack on Sevastopol by Ukrainian nationalists, 124 people, including 27 children, received wounds or injuries. It appears this attack was on people sunning and swimming at the beach.
Is this to provoke a larger war to make it much worse so that we can't get out of it no matter what? Is that what this is?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But don't you know they had to bomb the beach because that's where all the terrorists train, Kurt. It's on the beach using special landing craft shaped like boogie boards.
Jesus.
America's now. So we're now playing.
Hey, Dresden, man, you got a Dresden, right?
Yeah, you got a Dresden. The Russian news agency TASS reported that 5 American-made missiles with cluster munitions were used in the attack. Moscow claimed to down 4 missiles, and the 5th exploded over Sevastopol. The Russian Defense Ministry said the U.S. was responsible for the attack because of its role in helping Ukraine fire the frickin' missiles.
It is. Guess what it is? You know how cowardly it is to use someone else to fight your war?
That's what this is.
How ashamed you should be as a country that you use another people in a proxy war? I mean, that's pathetic, dude.
So, but don't you understand, Kurt? America is playing one-dimensional chess here. Because if you want to get the world to take your side in a conflict, you always attack people catching sun at the beach.
Yeah.
That'll get the world on your side.
Well, then if you control the media, you can just lie about it later. A whole bunch of people either don't care about Ukraine or they're not going to listen if you tell them how it's going.
I blame Tara Reid. All flight missions for the American missile operation tactical missiles are entered by American specialists. So in order to send these ATACMS missiles, it sounds to me like what they're saying is that
we're not even using them as a proxy. We're just doing it.
Is that we have to program them. The United States has to program them and use U.S. satellite reconnaissance data. So it's basically we're bombing Russia, basically. The statement continued, therefore, responsibility for the deliberate missile attack on civilians in Sevastopol lies primarily with Washington, which supplied these weapons to Ukraine, as well as the Kiev regime, from whose territory this attack was launched.
In a related story, Lindsey Graham came in his pants.
Yeah. The statement added, such actions will not go unanswered.
Yeah, you know what's going to start happening? I bet you a lot of cyber stuff like that tugboat 9/11 they had in Baltimore. I'll bet there's going to be a lot more of that.
I bet you.
Bet you a lot more fires. Nobody can use nukes, I don't think. So everybody's going to start using their secret shit.
They're going to, The problem is, Kurt, that this could escalate to nuclear war. That's the problem. That's the problem.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to use stuff that you don't even know they had, just like we've been doing.
Well, they have those hypersonic missiles, Russia does, that we don't have. You know, we don't have them.
No, I tell everybody. I can't believe it. How is that even possible?
Yep.
We don't have the best missiles on the planet.
We don't have the best missiles.
Then America's worthless, dude.
I know.
If we don't even have that. That was one of our main things.
So the Kremlin labeled this an attack of terrorism, because that's what it is. Kiev claims the Crimea Peninsula is Ukrainian territory, but Russia has had full control over the region since Moscow annexed it in 2014, and they also voted to become part of Russia.
Also, if it is Ukraine's, why are you bombing your own civilians who've been captured by Russia? Why would you target your own civilians if it's yours?
So yeah, if that's your territory and those are your people who live there, why would you bomb them?
Oh, that's right, to make a bigger war so we can't get out of this. That's why. Everything's just bullshit to try to make it worse.
Yeah, that's like if Mexico took over Texas, so we started bombing Austin.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if BlackRock wanted me to, I would.
The U.S. has greenlit Ukraine to attack limited Russian territory, including Crimea. The U.S. recently expanded to allow Kiev to hit targets inside of Russia territory within 100 kilometers or 62 miles of Kiev's Sumy and Kharkiv oblasts. However, Kiev is still seeking broader authorization from the U.S. on the range and weapons it can use to hit targets. And so they just want to escalate this into World War III. The United States wants this to happen. Neither the range nor the category. This war could have been over. It never started, and it could have been over 2 years ago.
If they had done nothing, Ukraine would be doing way better.
Doing way better.
And we'd have enough missiles to fight China.
The New York Times previously reported that the restrictions on Ukraine's use of U.S. weapons were put in place as a part of President Biden's plan to avoid World War III. But throughout the war, the U.S. and other NATO countries have taken escalations they previously ruled out due to fear of provoking Russia. Now they don't care. So you're not there aren't any grown-ups in the room. There are neocon psychopaths in the room that are trying to actually now provoke World War III because that's the only thing that's going to save them.
Hey, remember when Hitler was going down? He said,
"That's right.
Hey, if the Germans can't win, then they all deserve to die." Isn't there a striking feeling of that here? Because they're not that stupid. I don't believe that. You know, Scott Riddle will say, "Oh, they think it's the same war." I think this is on purpose destroying us.
Yes.
Okay, and I think it's like, well, then we're going to get him in this war.
This is the stuff they said. This is the stuff they said Trump was going to do.
Yeah,
Trump's going to have his finger on the nuclear. This is what Trump.
This is our pun. You know why? Because I bet a bunch of them are worried about going to jail, whether Trump's reliable on that or not. A bunch of them are like Bibi Netanyahu, you know, fucking criminals.
Yes,
and they're
all criminals.
They're afraid they might have to pay for even a small amount of their many, many crimes.
I just think that their plan was to always try to crush Russia and balkanize it, split it up, and give it to BlackRock. Just like they're doing to Ukraine.
Yeah,
they're giving it to BlackRock. The same thing they wanted to do to Russia. They thought they could do that to Russia. But Russia's much stronger than we thought they were.
Jimmy, today...
They're not me, but the neocons running Joe Biden's administration.
I'm just thinking of my girlfriend at Rite Aid text me pictures of the empty shelves as if we were in some kind of wartime.
Yeah.
And then Tucker Carlson was impressed because he had a lot of stuff at the store. Yeah, I was too. I was also impressed.
Still, Kiev is asking Washington to further provoke Moscow by sending more advanced weapon system, modern air defense systems for Ukraine, such as Patriots, accelerated training of our pilots for F-16s, and most importantly, sufficient range for our weapons are truly necessary, said Zelensky. Hey, you know, they're literally ripping people off the street and throwing them in the vans against their will and sending them to the front lines. You know what that means? That means Ukraine has long lost this war. The people in Ukraine aren't willing to fight it. The average age of the soldiers is over 40 years old.
Well, I'm sure we have some NATO troops pretending to be mercenaries or some weird work around the law, right?
Here's another attack. Death toll rises to 20 after gunmen attack Russia's Dagestan. This is real. And here's what Scott Ritter has to say about this.
It's Sunday, and normally this is a day I like to take off and dedicate it to my family, but the events unfolding in Russia, I think, require at least some brief commentary. I'm referring to two events, actually. One, a Ukrainian attack on Sevastopol using U.S.-supplied ATACMS missiles, and the second, a terrorist attack in Dagestan that appears to have all the hallmarks of Western involvement. Let there be no doubt these are two direct attacks against Russia by proxies of the United States and of NATO. And it's more than just a proxy engagement, given the necessity of preparation, intelligence support, etc. This is a direct attack on Russia by the United States, by NATO, and by non-NATO European entities. All of the parties that have made a decision in the last several days and weeks.
I don't know if you saw that dog.
Yeah. I got my eye on him.
Yeah, that dog's a foreign agent. I'm just telling you.
Non-NATO European entities. All of the parties that have made a decision in the last several days and weeks to expand the scope and scale.
They're expanding
of
the war.
Their participation in the Ukrainian-Russian conflict. Now, some people are saying that the Ukrainians deliberately attacked a beach in Sevastopol. The evidence shows that this most likely is not the case, that 5 ATACMS missiles were fired, 4 were shot down. The 5th one being shot down dispersed either cluster bombs or fragments from the destroyed missile onto the beach, killing a number of Russians, wounding many others. But that doesn't matter. The Ukrainians made a decision to use ATACMS missiles equipped with cluster munitions against a city, a civilian city. This is an act of terrorism. This is in keeping with the Ukrainian actions that have transpired over the course of the past years, where Ukraine since 2014 has been bombarding Russian civilian sites, cities, villages, towns, for the sole purpose of inflicting death and destruction on Russian civilians. This is an act of terrorism. And given that the ATACMS missile cannot be deployed by the Ukrainians without extensive intelligence support by the United States, this is an act of terrorism by the United States against Russia. The same can be said about the attacks in Dagestan. These are deliberately designed to disrupt the civil life of the Russian Federation. Dagestan is part of the Russian Federation. And it's also designed to engender a split between the Muslim and non-Muslim segments of Russian society. This is a tactic that goes back to the first Chechen War and the second Chechen War, where the CIA and other European intelligence agencies sought to split Chechnya away from the Russian Federation. That effort failed, and the effort in Dagestan will fail too. But it doesn't absolve the parties involved of their guilt in launching what is a direct assault on the Russian Federation. Now the question is, what will Russia do? Historically speaking, the Russian Federation has shown an ability to absorb provocations of this nature and remain focused on the task at hand, which of course is achieving the goals of the special military operation, the demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine. But at some point in time, there will have to be a response. And what is an appropriate response? That's up for the Russian Federation to decide, but let there be no doubt that if and when the time comes for the Russian Federation to respond to all of those responsible for this horrific series of attacks, that the perpetrators held to account will not just be the Ukrainians, but those who have provided the Ukrainians with the weapons and the intelligence and the training to carry out these dastardly, cowardly attacks. We live in very dangerous times. We live at a time when Russia, the United States, and NATO have all been beating the nuclear drum. We don't need a nuclear war, but that's the direction we're heading if we don't stop this insanity. And by stopping this insanity, this means stopping the United States, stopping NATO, stopping Europe from continuing to facilitate these terrorist attacks by Ukraine against Russia.
Okay, well said. Again, the aggressor is the United States, Ukraine. They're the ones who provoked this war. They're the ones who continue it. Russia wanted peace. That's what the Minsk Accords were, and Minsk II was. This was all about to avoid this. But of course, Angela Merkel let the cat out of the bag. Those peace accords were never going to be followed by NATO and Ukraine. Those were just there to bide time so they could build up Ukraine's military so they could do this war.
Look, we're not having a one world government with Russia intact.
Yep. So this is the West thinking that they can break up Russia and give it to BlackRock.
Hey, how come we're the weird Soviet evil empire now with
That's
not
right.
enough shit on the shelves, and they got all the nice stuff in their weird and conservative and churchy? We really switched places from the 80s, huh?
So, this idea that supporting the Democratic Party, which is anti-worker, pro-war, across the board pro-war, and you're somehow on a left or a liberal, you're not. You've been co-opted into being a neocon. You're supporting neocons with a gay pride flag.
Stop being compartmentalized.
That's it.
Oh, that's not above my pay grade. What Hillary does with APAL.
Yeah,
I just know Jamal. Well, how do you know anything about Jamal Bowman? This is nothing. Like what are you talking about?
Right?
Why are you here?
I know.
Why are you even pretending? Is this all your hope in life?
Let's go to a quick break and we'll be right back.
You let it fall in the neighbor's car. Okay. Look at that!
Get the fuck out! Get the fuck out! Get the fuck out! It's fake! It's fake! It's fake! It's fake! I'm sorry. I don't like fakes.
Hey, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there for more AM Joy and the rest of MSNBC. And click on any of the videos right here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. And you can get more videos from MSNBC for free every day with our newsletter. Just visit
Isn't it swell? The memes make themselves. They found a rabbi hole, tunnels and all. There's Jews in the walls. Isn't it bliss? The rabbinical grace soiling the mattresses. Well, let me tell you. If I were Rabbi Shmuley and diddle 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 digga digga diddle diddle dum, all day long I'd diddle little bums. If I were a Shmuley man, I'd peddle all my dildos, dreidel dildos, selling dildos with my daughter and her mum. If I were a Jewish Shmuley man, I'd be digging with a dildo in my bum. I'd wear a grotesque nose and go grab some goyim right on the nipple with a pinch. A Shabbos lap dance brace for the youngest mensch.
At this time, more than any other time, you know, revolution is necessary. It is necessary. Not only based on what has happened with the MOVE organization, you know, the babies that have been murdered, you know, MOVE adults that have been murdered, bombs being dropped on us, but past that to what is happening with all black people, so-called minority people, you know, money poor people. You know, this government, as has been said earlier, has waged war on us. But you know, something about us, particularly here in America, we don't really understand that. You know, we don't really know what war is. You know, for black people, for poor people, that people see as good, that they wasn't forced to do, that they didn't do to try to keep black people appeased, and calm down so that black people wouldn't riot. A prison situation is a crystallized example of that. You can make phone calls in prison. They have movies in prison. But they don't have those things because they just want to be nice to prisoners. They have those things because they know damn well if they don't have, people being able to contact their family, if they don't have, facilities for people to sit there and watch movies, people are going to be frustrated, upset, and they're going to direct that frustration at them prison administrators. And they're going to have riots on their hands. They're going to have people in them prisons turning them prisons out. That's why they have movies. That's why they have access to phones the way they do. And a stop to it when we don't like it, or encouraging it when it's something that's in our interest. We have to call the shots. The people have to take the reins of this system and start dictating, what we need, what needs to be done. And, taking the initiative to do it ourselves. We can't rely on this system. I mean, don't people see what's happening? Every single confrontation that MOVE people have been involved in, every single issue, oppression, economic issues, every single issue facing our people, is something that can be dealt with very, very simply. All people got to do is make their wishes known. All people have to do is stand up and say, listen, we're not accepting that. Unity is the key. Unity is the key to revolution. Revolution ain't nothing to be afraid of. It ain't nothing to shy away from. Revolution, contrary to what officials, this system and those backing the officials running this system, want people to believe that revolution means violence, means blood in the street. I'm saying it can get to that point, but it don't have to be violent. When people come together and take a strong stand on an issue, this government don't have no choice but to listen. Where you think they get their authority from? They don't have no power, but they do have authority to do certain things. Where you think they get it from? They get it from us, from the people. They get it from us accepting the things that they do to be done to stop it. Then you have some people who want to then turn around and say, yeah, well, it's the best we have, and want to make excuses. The time for excuses is over. It's over. Every man, woman, and child has to be involved in this revolution. Not only has to be, but is, whether you want to be or not. I mean, our babies gave their lives for this revolution on May 13th. Men, women, and children were murdered. And not just MOVE babies. What about all of the young men, women, children 8, 9 years old shot down on the street by cops, by drug pushers? I mean, where do you think that mentality comes from? It comes from this system, from the mentality of this system of getting over, making a quick buck, I'm saying that's where that needs to be done to stop it. Then, what I want people to really, really understand is that it's past time. It is past time for poor people, black people, to realize that this system has failed you. It has failed you. You can't get nothing from it. And what people got to do is withdraw our support from it and start doing for ourselves. That's what we got to do. How long are people going to sit back and beg, this government to do what's right when for hundreds of years all you've gotten is a slap in the face? All you've gotten is this government kicking your ass. That's all. That's all black people have ever gotten from this government.